Hi y'all, Kraken Latte here. It's that time of the week again where I bring you some random fact that may or may not be helpful right out of my back pocket. That's right, this is a Kraken Fact. Did you know that you can get 500 Anima and 1600-ish gold when you complete your 2 Covenant weekly quests? If, there's a stipulation to this, you are maxed out on souls, you'll get 500 Anima instead when you turn in the weekly Return Lost Souls quest. This will count toward the Replenish the Reservoir weekly as well, and count as a bonus. So, if you're level 40 renown when you turn in the Reservoir quest, then you'll get 1600 gold. I don't know if it'll stay that way after the 9.1 PTR, since we're apparently going up to 80 renown. I hope my expression explains my feelings there. Those are both weekly though, and obviously require a bit of work to reach, so it's not entirely feasible for a farming sort of process, but these are nice bonuses to reward those who put in the effort. Did you know that you can now quest in Legion zones without needing to open your class hall or unlock your artifacts? This one was one of those sneaky changes that slipped in during 9.0 that I super appreciate. Oh gosh. Back when I made my leveling guides in BFA, feels so long ago now, you still had to get at least one artifact in order to quest in Legion. So that made it a bit of a pain unless you skipped that expansion by doing dungeons or Legion invasions. But now, you don't have to. You don't even have to think about your class hall if you don't want to, as you can go straight to each zone and pick up the quests, the starting quest marked on each zone's map. So you can actually literally see, if you look at your zone maps, the starting quest for each one. So that's nice. Really nice. Did you know that there are no level 10 bind unequip plate boots that are green or higher? None. This came to light thanks to all the Exiles Reach spamming that I've done recently. You don't get boots when you leave that zone. It's the only piece of gear that you don't have. So a super easy way to get that covered is to buy or craft some green BOEs for that alt, once you get out. Gear from quests is sporadic and unreliable as it depends on where you go. So I find doing this helps my survivability when I start questing. Plate wearers, however, are out of luck on the BOE side of things, but don't you worry, I got you covered. So, the Ignoring the Warnings quest for Horde outside the gates of Orgrimmar and Durotar, and the River Paw Knoll Bounty quest in Westbrook of Elwyn reward boots, plate boots, and are easy to get for fresh level 10s. You only need to do the Wolf and the Kodo quest on the Horde, which is from the same quest giver, to unlock Ignoring the Warnings, and on Alliance, you can pick up the River Paw Bounty quest immediately. And bam, you got plate boots. Did you know that there is a super easy skip to the Warlords of Draenor scenario now? I found it out by accident. Yeah, it used to be if you didn't want to do it, you had 2 options. One, you had to go to Timeless Isle in Pandaria and use the fire in the secret cave, which was kind of a pain to get to, especially if you were solo and you could die because frogs. Anyways, this ports you to Gorgrund, and then you have to venture over to your garrison, which isn't so bad if you're Alliance, but if you're Horde, oh boyo, it was not fun. All by yourself. And if you can't fly, yeah. Anyway, option 2, you can use the portal to Ashran in the portal rune, or take the mage portal, which does the same thing. And then you still have to venture over there. The issue with this is if you're not at least level 30, you can't fly. So traveling's a pain in the anus. It was almost easier to just do the dang intro by the time you ride over there and die a few times. But, now, anyway, the shortcut. That issue has been solved, and it's a little funky. So, get yourself to Khadgar at the Dark Portal. Make sure you're in the WoD phase, of course, so you see all the Iron March and all that. And then make sure you don't have Khadgar's quest. If you have the quest to talk to him, delete it. And then walk through the portal. That's right. Just walk through. If you make sure you're not on Khadgar's quest, the Dark Portal will actually place you where you need to be in order to start your garrison, instead of the scenario. There used to be an invisible wall there that wouldn't let you through, trust me. I tried it in the past, not recently, but, you know, previously. So the Dark Portal wasn't, like, usable. But now, there's no flying, no crazy portals or caves, and in my case, I don't have to get creative to avoid the levels I'd gain in the scenario, so that I can have clean zone testing. That's a win in my book. Did you know that there are 2 toys that can swap your appearance with your battle pets? The first toy is called Narcissa's Mirror. This changes your battle pet into your appearance, and that appearance doesn't have to be your natural one. You could be using a toy or something to make yourself look different, and then that appearance will be put onto your pet. So that's kind of neat. So the second toy, the Magic Pet Mirror, and this is the opposite of that other toy. This lets you take your pet's appearance. So if you've got a battle pet you really love, you can look like them for a while. As far as I know, it works on any pet. I've not had one it didn't work on. Of course, I haven't tried it on all of them, but you know. So you could be almost whatever you want, or at least the mini version. You don't get bigger, you get down to their size. I love both of these toys a lot, I play with them a lot, and the only drawback is they both have 1 hour cooldowns. Blizzard likes their long cooldowns. Blech. Did you know that while you're leveling, you can keep Chromie Time on until level 50? Well, that part may have been obvious to you, but something funky happens if you turn it off when you hit level 48. At level 48, you will automatically receive the Shadowlands Introduction quest. This means that, if you want, you could go straight into Shadowlands leveling as early as level 48. Say you go turn off Chromie Time for one reason or another, but change your mind and decide you don't want to go to Shadowlands just yet. Well, if you want to quest anywhere other than Zandalar or Kultiris, you need to turn Chromie Time back on. But wait a second, Chromie doesn't have that option anymore. What's the deal? Let's just say Chromie Time doesn't like the Shadowlands for some reason, so as long as you have that introduction quest, you can't turn Chromie Time back on. So here's how to get around that. Delete the quest and quickly talk to Chromie and pick the timeline you want. See that? The quest automatically came back and would have prevented you from turning Chromie Time on if you weren't fast enough. It's a weird thing for sure, but hey, at least you know how to work around it now, right? Did you know that rested experience can actually have a large impact on how much XP you get from leveling? While it may not be that noticeable at first glance, or even your second or third glance, going into a zone with full or almost full rested bonus can really add up by the time you finish. The reason it may not feel like much is because it doesn't affect the experience you receive from quests or even bonus objectives. What it does affect, however, are any mobs that you kill, including rares, and any treasures, herbs, or ore nodes that you loot. 1 or 2 of those here and there won't make a real difference, but look at this. Here's a level 30 Tauren and a level 30 Orc. Both have the same gear, both have the same war mode buff, which is 10%, and both are even very, very close to the exact level percentage. But the Tauren has a full rested bonus and the Orc has none. Now look at this. Here's the end of these 2 characters' run of Vel-Shara, a zone in Legion. And what's this? Why is the Tauren 70% higher? Well, it's because of rested XP. Despite the fact that I do that zone exactly the same in every run, which means I run the same path, do all the same quests, and kill roughly the same amount of mobs, every mob that I killed added up. On top of that, the new bonus that a full set of heirlooms actually gets you is that it reduces the amount of rested you lose by up to 60%, meaning that juicy rested bonus will last you that much longer. So, is having a full rested bonus and a full set of heirlooms worth it? I believe it is, but don't sweat it if you want to level without it. From what I've read, it can take up to 8 days for an offline character to receive a full rested bonus. Considering we can level way faster than that, I'll leave that choice up to you. Did you know that there are teleports to Northern Barrens, Westfall, Nomergon, Eastern Plaguelands, and the Blackrock Mountains? These teleports are account-wide and usable by alts of both factions at almost any level. That means you can get around to these remote points a heck of a lot easier. But of course, you'll have to unlock them first. Don't worry, it's easy though. All you have to do is complete the corresponding pet dungeons at least once to unlock each one. You can pick up the first quest in the pet shop in Borealis or Zuldazar, and then completing that will lead you to the next. Even if you've never battled with pets before, I promise you this is really easy. I've done guides on these myself, but you can also refer to Zufu's pet guides, which will lead you through each fight step by step and show you alternative teams that you can use. I've got a link to all of those in the description and in a pin below. Just remember that even if you feel intimidated by all that, you only have to do each one once. Just once, and these teleports are unlocked account-wide forever. Once you do, you can find these teleports with Manapoof, an arcane elemental, in the pet shops in Legions Dalaran, Borealis, and Zuldazar. I recommend using the Dalaran one, simply because you can use your Dalaran Hearthstone and go straight to those teleports without wasting your main hearth. And you can do this on level 10 alts too. It's a great way to get around. Did you know that you can have a personal auction house in your garrison? Not everyone has or wants the Brutosaur mount, but having an auction house that you can hearth directly to is pretty handy, and it doesn't require knowing engineering to use, unlike the auction houses in the Vale of Eternal Blossoms, Borealis and Zuldazar, or Oribos. You might be groaning at the thought of using your garrison again, but it still has a lot of great uses even in the current expansions. The personal auction house is just one of the items on that list. So if you've never even touched your garrison and don't have the Hearthstone for it, you'll need to unlock it first. It's pretty easy, but if you would like me to do a full walkthrough on exactly what to do for this part, let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, let's move on to the auction house. First, you will need your garrison to be at least rank 2 because you will need to build the trading post, and there's no medium plots until rank 2. The trading post doesn't cost any resources and only costs 300 gold to put down initially. So you can put this down right away after your garrison is rank 2. It takes about an hour for it to complete. Once you've built a rank 1 trading post, now you need to get it to rank 2, which means you'll need to buy the upgrade for it from the NPC nearest the table for 1000 gold. And then you can build the rank 2 trading post for 500 gold and no resources. It's nice that these don't cost resources anymore. That was a change they made a while back. The auction house is a part of the rank 2 trading post and not rank 1, so that's why you've got to upgrade it at least once here. Now once that's done, go to the trading post you've just built, and you'll see an Arakoa machine lying on the ground. It has a quest that wants you to find parts to rebuild it. You don't actually pick up this quest though, which I find kind of annoying, because the parts listed here comprise of 3 to 4 smaller parts each, which aren't listed and can be a lot to remember. So you'll want to take notes or at least screenshot this next scene. So here's that list for you now. I've included the location of where each of these parts can be farmed, as well as separated out what parts create what module. Now all of this content is real easy nowadays, especially if you're level 50 or higher. So it's nothing to stress about. But you can also buy each of these parts, even in module form, on the auction house. Prices are going to vary wildly, however, so be prepared for that. And if you played Warlords of Draenor while it was live and despised the PvP part of the module, that was actually removed. So not only is it that much easier, that was also the most expensive piece. So, huzzah! Once you've gathered all of those pieces, now you can come back to that Arakoa machine and put them in. Before you do though, hold on for a sec. Make sure you use them on the correct character, the one that you want the easily accessible auction house on, because it is not an account-wide unlock. So if you wanted this on multiple alts, you'll have to do that over again on each one, which is a real bummer, but if you use it say on your main character, it's not really an issue anyways. For example, while I have my bank alts parked at an auction house somewhere, my main character, who I play the most, is the one with his garrison auction house unlocked so that I can poof back here whenever I want it. And there we have it. That's how you can get your own personal auction house without a Brutosaur, and without engineering. Did you know each time-walking vendor offers bind-on-account commendations for a good handful of that expansion's reputation? That's right, I said bind-on-account. Costing only 50 badges each, one commendation will net you a delicious 500 rep. Any alts that have spare time warp badges can buy some commendations and send it to whomever of your toons needs it. Or you could farm a ton on your main and then send the rep to an alt. Now if you've got all of your reps exalted, why would you care about this? Professions is a simple answer. Many reputations require a certain level of rep before you can buy their recipes. So if you've got alts with crafting professions, this is a nice alternative. But what time-walking vendors sell what reputations? Let's take a closer look. As of this video, there is time-walking for Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, and Warlords of Draenor. I imagine Legion will be added sometime in Shadowlands, but we'll have to wait to see. The Burning Crusade vendor is Kupri, found in Sha'arth City. This vendor sells reputation for the Consortium, the Shatar, Thrallmar or Honorhold, Cenarian Expedition, Keepers of Time, and Lower City. The Wrath of the Lich King vendor is Auzen, found in Northrend's Dalaran. This vendor sells reputation for the Kirin Tor, the Ebon Blade, the Argent Crusade, the Sons of Hodir, Wyrmrest Accord, and the Horde Expedition or the Alliance Vanguard. The Cataclysm vendor is Kiatki, found in Stormwind and Ogrimar's Earthen Ring. That's the Cataportal Circle. This vendor sells reputation for Dragonmaw Clan or Wildhammer Clan, Guardians of Hyjal, the Ramkehen, the Earthen Ring, and Therazane. A quick note on Therazane. This is Deepholm's rep, and you start out as hated, so unless you don't mind spending extra, it wouldn't hurt to quest here for a bit to get out of the red. The Mists of Pandaria vendor is Mistweaver Zia, located on Timeless Isle. This vendor sells reputation for the Klaxi, the Shadowpan, the Golden Lotus, the August Celestials, Sunreaver Onslaught or Kirin Tor Offensive, the Tillers, Order of the Cloud Serpent, Dominance Offensive or Operation Shield Wall, the Shadowpan Assault, the Anglers, and Emperor Xiaohao. Phew. They went all out for Pandaria rep for some reason, but hey, I won't complain. A note on the Pandaria reps. If you get these to Revered, most of their quartermasters offer a grand commendation for sale. You want this. This unlocks a 100% bonus rep gain for that faction on your account forever. Super nice for any future Pandaria rep grinds, and even makes your first time to Exalted faster since you can grab it at Revered. The Warlords of Draenor vendors are Tempra for Alliance and Stormshield, and Cronus for Horde and Warspear. These vendors sell reputation for Erakoa Outcasts, Order of the Awakened, Steam-Wheedled Preservation Society, and Saberstalkers for both factions. Then, Tempra sells the Council of Exarchs, the Shatari Defense, and the Hand of the Prophet to Alliance, while Cronus sells the Frostwolf Orcs, the Laughing Skull Orcs, and Vol'jin's Headhunters to the Horde. Did you know that the Battle for Azeroth Nzoth Assault caches can still reward 2,000 gold? These are the caches you receive after completed the Black Empire, Mogu, Akir, and so on, assaults that take over the Vale of Eternal Blossoms and Uldum. The 2,000 gold reward is certainly still a chance, just like it was when BFA was live, but it's nice that it's still here. For reference, I have 6 characters who have both assault areas unlocked, and only one of them received the gold reward this week, ironically from both caches. My luck is pretty terrible though, so you will most likely have a much better chance than I. In case you don't know what assaults I'm talking about, these are the Nzoth-related assaults introduced in patch 8.3 and are unlocked through the same questline that rewards you with the legendary cloak. The Black Empire assaults last an entire week, while the smaller assaults for the Mogu, Akir, and other races change every few days. In addition to that, it's notable that the quests specifically from the Black Empire Assault reward quite a bit of gold as well. Doing all of them this week got me about 600 gold just from the quests on one character, and that gold at least isn't RNG. The quests from the other assaults, however, only seem to be about 23 gold each, so those aren't as great. If you're interested in doing these and didn't unlock them in BFA, you can do them on any level 50 or higher character. Though the higher level the better, since these assaults can be quite tough if you're 50, solo, and poorly geared. To start the whole thing, you need to pick up the quest Return of the Black Prince as Horde or an Unwelcome Advisor as Alliance. You can get this either from Valera inside the Great Seal as Horde, the Urgent Missive on the table inside the Harbor Master's office as Alliance, or if those aren't there, you can walk into the Chamber of Heart in Solthis and it will either automatically pop up for you, or Magni will be holding it for you. However, there's a catch. If you've done absolutely nothing in Battle for Azeroth, this quest is locked behind the Nazjatar introduction as well. Of course, if you've never even been to the BFA zones, you'll need to do the BFA intro too, but that's a given. The Nazjatar intro can be picked up at level 50 from Nathanos or Wormbane, both on their respective faction ships in the harbor, and will take you about 30-ish minutes to complete. You don't need to open Mechagon, which is also available after Nazjatar, just the Nazjatar intro itself. Make sure you go all the way through with doing Magni's part, getting the scale from the High Mountain, unlocking the High Forge, and all that. Fresh alts will have to do this as well, even if you've done it on other characters. This is not an account-wide or skippable thing. Once you do all that, then you can go pick up the quest mentioned before, and now you can do the entire chain that follows. You'll end up doing the assaults as you unlock them anyways, so that's a plus. Whether or not this is worth it is totally up to you, but now you know it's there. Did you know? LFR, which stands for Looking for Raid, is the dungeon finder tool for raids specifically. Just like how you can queue for a random group for some dungeons when leveling, LFR is the max level version for raids. But unlike dungeons, which can still be queued for through the dungeon finder tool after an expansion is over, LFR is special. You have to go to a specific NPC to queue for an LFR that is not in the current expansion. On top of that, each wing is still separated and treated as a separate instance, so I'll cover which one is for what raid, since it isn't completely obvious if you didn't do the raid during that expansion. And the best part is all of this can be queued for solo, so you don't have to bring a group to get in. We'll go by oldest to newest, so we're starting with the first Looking for Raid edition ever, Cataclysm's Dragon Soul. This is the only raid in Cataclysm that has an LFR option, and so if you take the portal to the Caverns of Time, head down to the Dragon Soul raid entrance, and you'll find Aradormi, which is the NPC you need to talk to. She's right in front of it. This raid has two wings, which are the Siege of Wyrmrest Temple and the Fall of Deathwing. The separate wings means when you finish all the bosses present in the first one, you have to leave the raid group by right-clicking on the little raid finder eyeball and selecting Leave Instance. Then, you can queue for the next wing and do all the bosses in that one. It's good to note that LFR has a weekly lockout like other raid difficulties, which means you can only get loot from each boss once a week per character. If at any point you're not sure what raid has what bosses, pop open your raid journal, find that raid, and you can scroll through the encounters there. Mists of Pandaria is the next one. To queue for these raids, head to the Vale of Eternal Blossoms in Pandaria, and go over to the Lorewalkers area between the two shrines. Inside here stands a line of male Pandarian NPCs who let you queue for various things. Lorewalker Han on the right is the LFR NPC you need. Talking to him opens up the list of all the wings for all the raids in Pandaria. The first two options on the list, Guardians of Mogushan and the Vault of Mysteries, belong to the Mogushan Vaults raid. The next two options on the list, the Dread Approach and the Nightmare of Shagzir, belong to the Heart of Fear raid. The Terrace of Endless Spring is for its own raid since that one's a shorty. The Last Stand of the Zandalari, Forgotten Depths, Halls of Flesh Shaping, and Lei Shen's Pinnacle of Storms are all for Throne of Thunder. Then the last 4 wings, the Veil of Eternal Sorrows, Gates of Retribution, Underhold, and Downfall of Garrosh Hellscream, all belong to the Siege of Orgrimmar raid. Moving on to the Warlords of Draenor expansion, the NPC you need is in your garrison. Seer Khazal is the same orc for both Horde and Alliance, and he'll sit right next to the boombox in both faction garrisons. This expansion's LFR wings are labeled much better, as each one has the name of the raid right in it. The first 3 belong to Highmaul, the middle 4 to Blackrock Foundry, and the last 5 are all for Hellfire Citadel. Seer Khazal here, this NPC, will only show up though if your garrison is at least level 2. And now for Legion. The NPC you need is Archmage Timiar in the Broken Isles Dalaran. He's in the same plaza as the Violet Hold dungeon, and it looks like we're back to the poorly labeled wings, so let's list them off. Darkbow, Tormented Guardians, and the Rift of Uln all belong to the Emerald Nightmare raid. Arcing Aqueducts, the Royal Athenium, Nightspire, and Betrayer's Rise are for the Nighthold raid. Trial of Valor is for its own raid since it's a short one. The Gates of Hell, Wailing Halls, Chamber of the Avatar, and Deceiver's Fall each go to the Tomb of Sargeras raid. And then the last few, Light's Breach, the Forbidden Descent, Hope's End, and the Seat of the Pantheon all belong to Antorus the Burning Throne. Now we move into Battle for Azeroth. The Horde and Alliance have 2 different NPCs. For Alliance, we have Kiku, a Tortollan who sits just to the right inside the inn in Boralis. And then for Horde, we have Epu, a Tortollan who sits on the 2nd floor of the northeastern part of the Great Seal in Dazara lore. Both of these Tortollan queue for all the wings of the Battle for Azeroth LFR, so let's look at which ones go where. So for the first 3 wings here, we have the Halls of Containment, the Crimson Descent, and the Heart of Corruption. Those are all for Uldir. The next 3 are for the Battle of Dazara lore, which are Defense of Dazara lore, Death's Bargain, and Victory or Death. And then the one after that is quite obvious. There's only 1 wing for Crucible of Storms, and it's named Crucible of Storms, so very short raid. The next 3, the Grand Reception, Depths of Devoted, and Circle of Stars, are all for the Eternal Palace. And then the last 3 after that are the Vision of Destiny, the Halls of Devotion, and the Gift of Flesh. Those are all for the Ny'alotha, the Waking City raid. So, a note here is you have to be at least level 51 to queue for all these, and if you want to do Nzoth, the very last wing in the Gift of Flesh, you have to have your legendary cloak from Battle for Azeroth equipped. They may change this later, but as of right now, it's required. Did you know that there are 6 mounts that drop from world bosses so far? You probably already know about the alpaca that drops from Doongorger in Vol'dun, since that one's talked about a lot. But there are 5 others from older content, all of which are soloable if you're level 50 or higher. 4 of these mounts come from Pandaria world bosses alone, so let's look at those first. Unlike newer world bosses that change each week, the Pandaria world bosses are up all together every week and have 15-minute spawn timers, so you can farm your heart out here. Well, almost anyways. It's important to note that all world bosses are on a weekly lockout for loot, much like raids. So this is where alts come in handy. More alts means more chances. The first one here is Galleon, labeled Celias' warband on the map, and can be found at the southern part of the Valley of the Four Winds. It drops the Son of Galleon mount, which is one of the few Mushan mounts in the game. The next world boss is the Shaw of Anger, found in Kunlai Summit. It used to have multiple spawn points, but has since been reduced to just one area, which the icon does properly show on the map. This one drops the Heavenly Onyx Cloud Serpent, one of the few of its kind in the game, and is certainly Shaw infested. The next world boss is Undasta, which is all the way up north in the Isle of Giants. You can't fly on this island, so I like to fly toward it until it dismounts me, and then use a glider to glide straight to the world boss. This cool dino is also tameable by hunters, so luckily it's just a 15-minute wait. The Cobalt Primordial Direhorn comes from this one. The last world boss in Pandaria is Nalek the Stormlord, all the way over on the Isle of Thunder, just in front of the raid entrance. If you've not been to this island, you can pick up the quest for it here on the western side of Townlong Steps, not far from the Shadowpan garrison. You only need to take the flight quest over to the Isle of Thunder, and then you're good to just port to the island after that. You can't fly here either, so just ride over to where Nalek is shown on the map. Nalek drops the Thundering Cobalt Cloud Serpent Mount. Moving over into Draenor, we have our 5th world boss, Rukmar, down in the Spires of Arak. Like the Pandaria ones, Rukmar is also up every week and has a 15-minute spawn timer. The Solar Spirehawk is the one from her, and this mount is one of 2 mounts in game, currently, of its kind. The other one being the Violet Spellwing, which is no longer available, so that makes the Solar Spirehawk very unique. And our last world boss, the one you likely know about, is over in Zandalar in Vol'dun. This one is Doongorger Kralok, who, unlike the previous ones, is on a 6-week rotation with the other base zone BFA world bosses. And here's that rotation for you on screen. So check your BFA world quests each week, that way you know who's up and when, and then you can tell when Doongorger will be up again. When it's up for the whole week. And Molly, one of the few alpaca mounts in-game, is the one from this world boss. The first 5 world bosses are totally soloable at level 50. Doongorger here, however, is the one that may prove a bit more of a challenge since I couldn't solo it at 50 or 60, so you will likely need a group for this one. Did you know that the Looking for Raid difficulty, the queuable version of current raids, counts toward your loot from the Great Vault? Since I retired from group content back in BFA, I hadn't bothered once with the Great Vault since I knew it was tied to raids, PvP, and Mythic Plus. And so I kind of assumed LFR wasn't a part of that since, well, it's LFR. However, it does indeed count. So long as you read what raid counts for it before queuing, you're in good shape. In this case, only the Sanctum of Domination counts right now since that's the most current raid tier as of this video. I did test Castle Nathria, the previous raid tier, just to be sure, but it did not count toward the weekly goal, whereas the Sanctum of Domination did. So you can totally get loot from the Great Vault even if you're not a competitive player. Sweet! However, I give you this information with a word of caution. Looking for Raid is not the best, shall we say, representation of the World of Warcraft community, and can often turn into a shit show real quick. So, do so at your own risk. Did you know that void storage still exists? Did you even know about it at all? I actually find it still very useful despite its limitations. The void storage, in case you hadn't heard of it, is a second personal bank accessible through certain ethereal NPCs. Most of them are located near the transmog and upgrade ethereals, but not every place that has a mogger has a void storage for some reason. My favorite one to use is actually a part of the storage building in my garrison, since I can hearth right to them and the other banks are right there as well. While it is like a second bank, it does have some quirks you need to be aware of. First off, if you've never used it, you have to pay 100 gold to unlock it, just like the reagent tab in your personal bank. You get 2 tabs with quite a bit of space, but each time you want to deposit a new item, it will cost you 10 gold. This is not a frequent use sort of bank, hence why it's called storage. You also, for some reason, can't store items that are not soulbound, stackable, or labeled unique. Everything other than that can be stored here. So what the heck do I put in here then? Well, items I don't ever want to get rid of, but I will very rarely use. Old legendaries are a great example of this, as many of them can be stored here, though not all of them. Special trinkets that do cool things, promotional event gear, or other things like that you can't get anymore, are all stuffed in here. If you're not sure if it can go in, just try it. You'll find out either way. Legion artifacts and the Heart of Azeroth can't go in here though, which drives me nuts, but at the very least, everything that can go into void storage helps alleviate some space in my banks. Did you know that BFA emissaries can still reward 200 gold? Did you know that you can still get a few hundred gold out of BFA Paragon chests? During the later part of Battle for Azeroth, these used to reward a lot more, but they were reduced sometime during early Shadowlands. However, the gold was not removed completely, so it may be worth taking a look at now that BFA open world content is trivial for max level players. Emissaries in BFA still have a chance to offer gold as their reward, among many other things. So if you see gold down here being offered, this gold is guaranteed on completion and there's no RNG about it. It takes 4 world quests to do 1 emissary, except for Tortolan who want 3. And in the case of world quests, gold can be rewarded from these as well, so those are the ones you'll want to do. And what's more, if you receive a Paragon cache, you'll get gold out of that as well. All of that together adds up, which means you could get a few thousand gold for just a few minutes of effort. Of course, the world quest rewards are random, and the Paragon chest isn't frequent because it depends on your reputation level. But this is all super easy content to do, so whether or not it's worth it is up to you. Did you know that your Hearthstone doesn't need to exist? Did you know that it doesn't need to take up an entire precious slot in your bags? But how, all-knowing Kraken, can this be? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm certainly far from all-knowing, and you didn't ask for this, but let's look at it anyways. How is it your base Hearthstone doesn't need to take up a slot or even exist at all? Well, there are Hearthstone toys that you can collect in the game. These function just like a regular Hearthstone as they are set to wherever you've chosen. What's more is these Hearthstone toys do not require the presence of your basic Hearthstone to function. So you could put that old thing in your bank, or you can delete it. Yep, you can straight up delete it. I've been using this for ages and it works like a charm. Of course, opening your toy collections window every time you want to hearth isn't very practical, even if you've favorited one toy. So I prefer to set my Hearthstones to an Opie ring using the add-on Opie, which I have hotkeyed for easy access, along with other various portally type things. Since you can even set macros to an Opie ring, I use this in conjunction with the add-on Random Hearthstone to randomize all of my Hearthstone toys every time I use it. That makes it more fun in my opinion. But of course, where do all of these Hearthstone toys come from? There are 16 Hearthstone toys in-game as of right now, so let's look at that list real quick. So, with the list on screen, 7 of these Hearthstone toys come from holidays that happen throughout the year. 1 is from Mechagon Junkyard Tinkering, 1 is from Dwarven Archaeology, 2 are from the old Warcraft trading cards, 1 is from buying the Shadowlands Epic Edition, and then there are 4 from the Covenants in Shadowlands, though those 4 require you to be in their respective Covenants to use. There is also 1 from the Diablo 20th anniversary event, but to my knowledge you can't get that one anymore. And the 2 TCG ones are likely hard to get now, so keep that in mind. However, the holiday ones are the easiest to get and the coolest looking by far, so certainly aim for those when they're up. These holidays are specifically Hallow's End, Winter's Veil, Midsummer Fire Festival, Brewfest, Love is in the Air, Noble Garden, and the Lunar Festival. Each of them will cost a chunk of that holiday's currency, so be prepared to farm that currency however you need to. And it's as simple as that. Using these toys instead of your basic hearth frees up a slot in your bags. Sure, it's just one little slot, but hey, more bag space is more bag space, right? Did you know there's a new cosmetic system that Blizzard has snuck in with the recent patch, specifically for cosmetic transmog items? I mean, like the method of learning them has been changed from how it used to work before. This was something I'd learned that I feel like went under the radar a bit, so let's take a look. Previously, transmog items that were labeled as cosmetic functioned just like regular gear. They were learned by holding or equipping the item in your bag, and the appearance was then sent to your collections tab. They were just not bound to the 4 armor types, and that was really the only difference. Now, they've been grafted into Blizzard's new Collections learning system, which has you learn the appearance by consuming the item on use, much like toys and mounts. They disappear from your bag and just go right into the Mog tab after one simple click. No need to equip a few times, or delete it, or sell the item to make sure you learned it. It just happens. From what I can tell, this seems to include most, if not all, old items marked as cosmetic as well. Of course, I can't check every cosmetic item myself, but I dug out some old ones that I had been hanging on to and saw that even these, despite being many years old, had a new warning message on them. I could not equip them, and it just told me that I already knew that appearance, which I assume means these are included in the new system as well. So I can now just vendor these pieces since they serve no real purpose anymore. And yes, I know there was technically no reason to hold on to the cosmetic items anyway, since they were in fact learnable like regular gear, but I tend to be that person who holds onto unique things like this, just in case I want to physically put on the item for funsies, or more sentimental reasons, or, you know, just in case. I'm kind of that just in case person, you know? I'm sure some folks won't like this since we can't physically equip the old items anymore, but I really like it for the same reason. I like this method of learning of collectibles since it just makes it feel way more reliable and gets rid of that need for just in case. When the item vanishes and you do the glowy thing, you know you've got it. You're good. And that's really all there is to this. I just wanted to call attention to this neat new thing so that now you know you can go sift through your banks and possibly free up some space. Did you know there were new cosmetic boots added with patch 9.15? 6 of them, in fact. These new boots are new models as well and take on a more semi-realistic boot appearance, similar to Uggs or comfy slip-on boots like that. They come in 6 new colors, with 2 looking more normal, 2 with a fire and ice flare, and 2 with some cool bones on them. The best part is these are super easy to get as they just come from the transmog vendor. They cost Trial of Style tokens, 64 for all 6, and can be bought even when the Trial of Style is not active, so long as you already have the currency. And if that isn't enough to make you want them, check this out. They even cover up Troll, Vulpera, and Panda feet. They don't cover Worgen, Draenei, and Tauren, but they don't look too bad. I like this new style they've got going on. Plus, they use the new Cosmetic System that Blizzard has built in, which has you learn the appearance by consuming the item on use, much like toys and mounts. So, no more needing to lug around the physical item anymore, they just go right into the Mog tab. And there we have it! If you think I've missed information, or you want to request I do a specific guide, let me know in the comments below. Even if I don't answer you, I just might add your idea to my list. As always, thank you so much for watching, and remember, it's never too latte.